Did you really see Suge and Ice Cube fight?
Also, I see a ruckus, and I just see, Cube's throwing his fist. He wasn't punking out at all.
For years, the Suge Knight versus Ice Cube fight was nothing more than a street legend, whispered in barbershops and hip-hop circles. But now Suge Knight himself just stood up in court, apologized, and confessed that he was the one who actually shot Ice Cube. Crazy, right? Especially coming from the same man who used to swear he'd never snitch.
Who killed Tupac? Did you tell the police? Absolutely not. Because it's not my job. I don't get paid to solve homicide.
Cube didn't bite on the bait. He didn't throw shade, didn't fan the flames. Instead, he brushed it off with that classic calm, the kind that made people wonder if there was more beneath the surface than he was willing to say on camera. But behind closed doors, the whispers never stopped. From the early 90s on, the rumor mill kept spitting out stories of late-night confrontations, studio threats, and even gunplay involving Cube and Suge. And now, with Suge himself, allegedly, admitting to pulling the trigger, those whispers are colliding with reality. The question is, what really happened the night Cube was supposedly shot? Was it a cold ambush, a warning shot that spiraled out of control, or something deeper tied to death row's web of power plays? What makes this even wilder is the timing. Suge's confession doesn't just rewrite one story, it could rewrite an entire chapter of hip-hop history. If Cube, the man who walked away from NWA and built his own empire, really survived a hit from Suge Knight, it reframes his legacy, not just as an artist, but as a survivor of one of the most dangerous eras in rap. But here's the catch, not everyone is convinced. Some insiders say Suge is just running his mouth for attention, clout, or leverage while he's locked down. Others believe this is the first time he's finally telling the truth, stripped of the fear and the power games that once kept him quiet. So, was it confession or manipulation? Hard truth or just another Suge Knight headline? One thing's for sure, the hip-hop world is buzzing all over again, and the Cube versus Suge story just went from street legend to courtroom bombshell.
What I would say to him, but man, I hope you get out of the situation. That's what I would say.
But to understand the real tension, you've got to look at the different philosophies these men operated under. Ice Cube once broke down the difference between how Eazy and Suge Knight moved in the streets. When comparing their leadership styles, Cube explained that Eazy was more about respect and relationships, while Suge built his power through fear and intimidation. To Cube, that difference wasn't just about personality, it shaped the entire way their camps operated and why conflicts around them could turn so explosive.
Eazy, didn't use intimidation. He didn't use any intimidation. He just was a businessman straight up. So it was never any, at least when I was around, never any this gotta go down or, it's gonna be consequences to pay.
When it came to Eazy's approach to business, Cube painted a picture of a visionary.
Having the best ideas, being smart, being innovative, being able to see around the corner, being a visionary, having a plan, having the resources to execute his plan, letting us be who we wanted to be and not who he wanted us to be.
But Suge Knight, that was a whole different animal. When asked about Knight's reputation, Cube acknowledged the complexity. I think Suge is all three, but it might be different degrees. Definitely feared, definitely respected, and got a lot of people who love Suge because he pulled them out the mud. He pulled them out the dirt, and he helped orchestrate one of the greatest eras in hip-hop with Death Row. Now, while Cube was being diplomatic in interviews, Suge Knight was out here making moves that would become legendary in the streets. In one of his own interviews, Knight laid out his philosophy about the game and how he operated. To him, the industry wasn't about handshakes or second chances. Suge made it clear, survival was about power, loyalty, and making sure nobody ever mistook kindness for weakness. That mindset, mixing street politics with music business, is exactly what turned Death Row into a dynasty, but also what made Suge one of the most feared figures in hip-hop history.
We gotta be more role models and better example for the youngsters, you know what I mean? Yeah. I look at it like we got the hottest rappers in the world right now, pushing their line.
But Knight's words always carried a threat. He never hesitated to call out anyone who crossed him.
At 40 years old, talking on the phone or talking on records, you can beat me doing that all day. But I guarantee you this, they sign a waiver, I beat the dog shit out of them.
Suge Knight's ties to the mob Peru Bloods, a subset of the Bloods gang, added to his fearsome reputation. He reportedly used gang members as enforcers, intimidating rivals and associates alike, a factor that frequently came up in his legal troubles. Knight's run-ins with the law began early in his career. In 1992, he allegedly assaulted two aspiring rappers at a Hollywood studio, forcing them at gunpoint to strip and sign over publishing rights. He pled no contest in 1995, receiving 5 years probation and serving just 1 month in a halfway house. On September 7, 1996, Knight and Tupac Shakur were involved in a violent altercation at the MGM Grand Hotel in Las Vegas, targeting Orlando Anderson, a rival gang member. Hours later, Shakur was fatally shot while in a car driven by Knight. Though Knight wasn't charged in the murder, the incident violated his probation, and he was sentenced in 1997 to 9 years, ultimately serving 5. This marked the start of Death Row Records' decline, culminating in bankruptcy in 2006. After his release, Knight continued facing legal troubles, brief jail time in 2002 and 2003 for probation and parole violations, being shot in the leg at a 2005 MTV pre-party, and arrests in 2008 for assault and drug possession. Charges were often dropped when witnesses refused to cooperate. Additional incidents included a 2009 party brawl, arrests for marijuana possession and traffic violations in 2012, and a 2014 camera theft case involving comedian Cat Williams. In 2014, Knight was shot 6 times at a party hosted by Chris Brown in West Hollywood. Remarkably, he survived but refused to cooperate with police, cementing his no-snitch reputation. However, the most serious incident in Knight's criminal history occurred on January 29, 2015. Near the set of the Straight Outta Compton biopic, Knight drove his truck into Terry Carter, killing him, and C.L. Bone Sloan, severely injuring him. Knight fled the scene but surrendered the following day, claiming self-defense and alleging he feared for his life. Prosecutors argued the act was intentional, pointing to video evidence showing Knight reversing and then driving forward over the victims. The legal proceedings dragged on for nearly 4 years, with multiple delays, attorney changes, and courtroom drama. During this period, Knight faced health issues, including hospitalization for blood clots and claiming partial vision, loss in one eye. Finally, on September 20, 2018, Knight pleaded no contest to voluntary manslaughter as part of a plea deal. He received a 28-year sentence, 22 years for manslaughter, plus 6 more under California's 3 strikes law. During sentencing, Carter's family expressed outrage and labeled Knight a low-life thug. Other pending charges, including robbery and criminal threats from the 2014 camera theft case, were dismissed as part of the deal. Knight's legal saga continued even from prison. In 2023, he settled a wrongful death lawsuit filed by Carter's family for $1.5 million, avoiding a retrial after a 2022 civil trial ended in a mistrial. That same year, Knight sought to appeal his 28-year sentence, claiming his rights were violated during the plea process. But in March 2025, Los Angeles County Judge Laura F. Priver rejected the appeal. Beyond this, Knight is entangled in additional legal disputes, including a lawsuit over an unpaid $17 million Death Row Records settlement involving Snoop Dogg and others. Given this extensive documented history of criminal activity and legal trouble, it's notable that there is no evidence that Knight ever shot Ice Cube. Despite decades of media scrutiny, police records, and court documentation, there are no charges, investigations, or witness statements supporting that claim. No charges, no investigations, no witness statements, no court records. Nothing suggests that such an incident ever occurred. The absence of evidence is striking, especially given the intense media scrutiny that has followed Knight throughout his career. So, if there's no proof that Knight shot Ice Cube, where did this rumor come from? There are several plausible explanations. First, confusion with other incidents. Knight has been involved in numerous violent confrontations over the decades, and details from actual events may have been conflated or misattributed online. For example, his presence during Tupac Shakur's fatal shooting in 1996 could lead some to mistakenly link him to other shootings. Second, the Straight Outta Compton connection. Knight had documented conflicts related to the film, which featured Ice Cube both as a character and a producer. The 2015 hit and run that led to Knight's imprisonment occurred near the film set and involved people connected to the production. These real tensions may have been exaggerated or distorted as stories circulated online. Third, Knight's well-known history with firearms adds context. In January 1998, he was sentenced to 9 years in prison for violating probation by participating in a fight at the MGM Grand in Las Vegas the night Tupac was shot. Knight was also the victim of gun violence, notably in 2014 when he was shot 6 times at a party. This association with firearms can make rumors about shootings more believable. Fourth, the broader mythology surrounding Knight fuels speculation. His fearsome reputation was built on both verified incidents and exaggerated stories. Over time, the line between fact and fiction blurred, creating fertile ground for new rumors to emerge. While Knight's legal troubles and imprisonment have defined his trajectory, Ice Cube's path took a dramatically different direction. After leaving NWA in 1989 over financial disputes, Ice Cube launched a solo career that would transcend music, establishing him as a multifaceted entertainment powerhouse. Born O'Shea Jackson on June 15, 1969, he rose to prominence as a founding member of NWA, contributing to their groundbreaking 1988 album, Straight Outta Compton. After leaving the group, Ice Cube released his solo debut, America Keka's Most Wanted, in 1990, earning critical acclaim and cementing his status as one of hip-hop's most politically conscious voices. While Knight built Death Row Records with Dr. Dre, Cube carved his own path in music and film. His acting debut in John Singleton's 1991 film, Boys In the Hood showcased his natural talent and set the stage for a prolific career. Throughout the 1990s, as Knight became increasingly entangled in violence and legal troubles, Ice Cube diversified his portfolio. He wrote and starred in the 1995 stoner comedy Friday, which spawned a successful franchise, and continued releasing influential albums such as The Predator, 1992, and Lethal Injection, 1993. By the 2000s, while Knight was serving time for probation violations, Ice Cube successfully transitioned into family-friendly films like Are We There Yet?, 2005, and Are We Done Yet?, 2007, reaching audiences far beyond his original hip-hop fanbase. He also moved into production, creating the Barbershop film series and founding his own company, Cube Vision. In 2015, Ice Cube's career came full circle with the release of Straight Outta Compton, the biographical film about NWA he co-produced. The movie was a critical and commercial success, grossing over $200 million worldwide and receiving an Academy Award nomination for Best Original Screenplay. Ironically, it was during this production that Knight's fatal hit-and-run occurred. Leading to his imprisonment, Ice Cube's business acumen and foresight have extended far beyond music and film, solidifying his enduring influence across multiple industries. In 2017, Ice Cube founded the Big Three, a professional 3-on-3 basketball league featuring retired NBA players. He also secured numerous endorsement deals and continued to release music, maintaining cultural relevance across multiple decades. Throughout this remarkable career evolution, Ice Cube has largely avoided the violence and legal troubles that derailed Knight's trajectory. His ability to navigate the entertainment industry without succumbing to the pitfalls that claimed many of his contemporaries speaks to both his business intelligence and personal discipline. Most importantly for this investigation, at no point in Ice Cube's extensive public life is there any mention of being shot by Suge Knight. Such a significant event would have been widely documented, discussed in interviews, and likely addressed in his music or memoirs. The complete absence of any reference in Ice Cube's well-documented career further undermines the credibility of the viral claim. Interestingly, the mystique surrounding Death Row Records, coupled with the unsolved murders of Tupac Shakur and the notorious B.I.G., has created a cottage industry of conspiracy theories, speculative documentaries, and revisionist histories. Knight's central role in this era makes him a frequent target for new theories and allegations, regardless of their factual basis. Additionally, the social media ecosystem rewards engagement over accuracy. Shocking claims generate clicks, shares, and comments, the currency of online influence. A mundane story about Knight's appeal being denied doesn't generate the same engagement as a sensational claim of him confessing to shooting another rap legend. Content creators, whether amateur or professional, understand these incentives and often craft headlines and narratives accordingly. So why does it matter whether Suge Knight actually shot Ice Cube? After all, Knight is already serving a lengthy prison sentence for a separate violent crime, and Ice Cube has clearly moved past their old rivalry. It matters for several reasons. First, factual accuracy is fundamental to understanding hip-hop history. The story of West Coast rap in the 1990s, with all its innovation, conflict, and tragedy, is a crucial chapter in American cultural history. When false claims obscure these events, we lose connection to the real people and moments that shape the music and culture we value. Second, false claims can unfairly tarnish reputations. Knight has numerous documented misdeeds, but fictional acts of violence serve no purpose except to further demonize someone who has already faced legal consequences. Similarly, portraying Ice Cube as a shooting victim creates a false narrative that misrepresents his life and career. Third, uncritically accepting and sharing misinformation erodes our collective ability to distinguish fact from fiction. In an era when fake news is already pervasive, the hip-hop community bears a responsibility to uphold standards of truth, especially when discussing serious allegations of violence. Fourth, spreading false information about gun violence trivial. Real incidents. Hip-hop has lost too many talented artists to actual gun violence, from Scott Larrick to Tupac Shakur to Nipsey Hussle. Fabricating shooting incidents disrespects the memory of those who truly lost their lives and the communities still affected by such tragedies. Finally, accepting misinformation reinforces harmful stereotypes about hip-hop culture. For decades, critics have attempted to portray the genre as inherently violent and criminal. Unfounded rumors about shootings between prominent figures play into these stereotypes and undermine the artistic and cultural significance of hip-hop. While Knight and Ice Cube had a documented rivalry dating back to the early 1990s, there are no credible reports of violent physical confrontations between them, let alone a shooting. Their conflict was primarily professional and verbal, not physical. Knight's actual legal troubles are extensively documented and serious enough without adding fictional elements. His current 28-year prison sentence for voluntary manslaughter reflects the real consequences of his actions. Ice Cube, meanwhile, has built a multi-decade career spanning music, film, television, and business, largely avoiding the violence and legal pitfalls that derailed Knight's trajectory. Thanks for joining this deep dive into hip-hop history. If you found this investigation valuable, please click on the card showing